Oh, God. No. Stay back!
Around 3 a.m., a man suddenly wakes after hearing strange noises coming from outside his home. At first, the sounds are faint, unclear, almost like distant movement mixed with low murmuring that doesn't sound familiar at all. Still half asleep, but clearly unsettled, he turns toward the window, trying to work out what could possibly be making those noises at that hour. But when he finally looks outside, it's not just the sound that catches his attention. He sees something else.
Estoy escuchando ruidos afuera. Son 3:30 de la mañana. No sé si salir. Ahí está, hija de puta, de vuelta. Es ella. Yo no te voy a tener miedo. Hoy no te tengo miedo. Tengo miedo. Date vuelta. Date vuelta. Date vuelta. Date vuelta. Date vuelta.
A figure dressed in white moves directly past his window. Whether this was an actual person or something far more disturbing, both possibilities are unsettling for different reasons. Because if it was a real person, that raises even darker questions. Why would someone be silently walking around his property at 3 a.m.? Why dressed entirely in white? And how could they disappear so quickly without leaving any trace? What makes the encounter even more unsettling, though, is that this apparently wasn't the first time. According to him, there had been other nights when he noticed figures outside the house, sometimes dressed in black, appearing only briefly before vanishing into the darkness. And on some nights, the entire neighborhood would suddenly erupt with dogs barking all at once, as if they were reacting to something moving through the area that people couldn't fully see. Strangely, there were other nights when the dog stayed completely silent. And because of that, until more creepy footage or paranormal evidence appears, this late-night encounter remains a mystery. A man claims the paranormal activity inside his home became so disturbing that he eventually had to leave and stay at his girlfriend's house, just to escape it for a while. According to him, the incidents began small, random bangs echoing through the house late at night, doors slowly clicking shut, even when no one was near them, and lights that would suddenly shut off, leaving the room in complete darkness for several long minutes before turning back on by themselves. But he says the worst part was the silence that followed, standing alone at 4 a.m. in total darkness, waiting, with the uneasy feeling that something was deliberately holding the room still before the lights returned. Then one morning, again around 4 a.m., he woke up to the sound of laughter somewhere inside the house, clear enough that he immediately assumed it was coming from the TV. Except when he checked, the television wasn't even on. Some viewers suggested it might just be the house making noise. So to test that theory, he decided to leave for a few days and stay at his girlfriend's place, believing that if the disturbances stopped, then the house itself must be responsible.
So yeah, I've been staying at my girlfriend's house, but guess what, guys? You're not gonna fucking believe it. The ghosts have followed me here. And she's bugging the fuck out. Her mother is bugging the fuck out. And I'm bugging the fuck out. I mean, I guess I should have expected this, but let's just see what's been going on. Her door has been opening in the middle of the night. This closet door has been opening up in the middle of the night, and it's like hard as to open. We put shit in front of it so it wouldn't open. Hearing all types of knocks, hearing people run up and down the stairs. I mean, this house is 100 years old. And then to top it all off, my girlfriend goes in the shower today, and on the mirror it says, "We are here." And the writing is up.
Look at that R. It's like look at that R. Why is it? Oh, God. I'm not doing this shit. I gotta move out. What the gonna move out.
Yeah, so that was on the mirror. I mean, it looks like anybody could have written that, but in person, the way it was written is mad weird. It's like squiggly lines. Her mom tried cleaning it with Windex and it wouldn't come off. And then after all that shit happens, her mom goes downstairs, and she's a very religious woman, and she has like this little, I guess, Bible, would you say it is, or what is it? I guess
It's a regular Bible.
like a Bible.
I'm also sick. Ignore my voice.
Yeah. So she goes downstairs and looks at it, and she left it closed. She goes down and looks at it, and it's open on the same exact page that her husband and her father died. The same exact day, May 22nd, it says it in the book.
What it says on the page is very, like you were meant to hear it kind of thing. Like, it was just, like, so weird timing and just, like, a weird page.
So we're thinking maybe her dad is trying to protect them from whatever I brought in their house. What do you guys think?
But according to him, something even stranger happened. His girlfriend and her mother claimed they had never experienced anything unusual in that house before he arrived. To him, that meant the problem wasn't the house at all. He believes whatever is causing the activity is attached to him, something that follows him wherever he goes. But there's another detail that complicates things. The house itself is more than 100 years old, and some viewers believe his presence may not have brought anything with him but instead may have triggered something that was already there. In many paranormal theories, certain individuals are believed to act as catalysts, people who unintentionally awaken dormant paranormal activity in a location. And that's when the situation became even more disturbing, because he began having dreams.
What's up? So, I've been MIA. I came back from Cancun, and yeah, I'm tan now. But some wild shit happened to me the other night, and my eyes are going a little bit. But I'm here at my girlfriend's house, and it was around, I swear to God, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
It was 3:30, like on the dot. It was like 3:20. 3:29, 3:20.
And she said I was freaking out in my sleep.
I woke up to uncontrollably shaking right next to me, like literally freaking out, like not screaming, but like loud enough to wake me. And he was freaking out, shaking like a seizure almost.
Yeah, and I had no recollection of it at all. Nothing.
Said his name about 10 times, wouldn't wake up. I smacked him so hard across the face, and that's when he shot up.
And I woke up, and I told her I had this insane dream that I was in my house, and like, I don't know what happened. I thought I was sleeping in my room, and I started getting carried away by, looked like, I don't know, these dark shadow figures. They had like these big nails and teeth and crazy eyes, and I literally got picked up by them, and they were carrying me away. And then I told her that, and then I was like, yo, I have this crazy pain on my arm, and I shit you not, yo, this is legit. Like, this is real. Like, Grayson here is like freaked out about it, and so am I. Wait till you see this shit, bro. Wait till you see this shit. Look at that shit. Look at that shit. As soon as she woke me up, I felt something like pain on my arm. And look at that. As hard as she scratches, no matter how hard she scratches, it will not go into my arm like that. Like,
no, this is crazy.
Didn't I tell you, though, when I woke up, my arm was hurting?
Yeah, that's 3.
And it's literally 3 scratches. 2 long ones and a short one.
Not normal dreams, but vivid nightmares involving shadow figures, attacks, and the terrifying sensation of being unable to move. Experiences like this are sometimes linked to sleep paralysis, but in paranormal discussions, they are often interpreted as something far darker, a form of spiritual oppression, especially when the dreams are accompanied by physical sensations. And according to him, the dreams didn't end when he woke up. He claims he began noticing marks appearing on his body afterward. Something many viewers believe suggests that whatever presence is involved may be targeting him directly, whether this is truly a case of paranormal activity or something else entirely. I'll leave that up to you. A man named Ken works as an Uber driver and regularly uploads dashcam videos where he shares driving advice and stories from the road. But during one shift, he ends up recording something far more unsettling. Ken receives a pickup request from Lincoln Cemetery. At first, it seems strange, but still possible. So he accepts the ride and starts heading to the location. That's when things begin to feel wrong.
We are picking a passenger called Betty up from the Fort Lincoln Cemetery. So we are at a cemetery and we have a passenger to pick up. I'm picking this person called Betty up, and it's over there. And it's a cemetery, and there's no one over here. So we'll find out what's going on here. I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but let's go find out what's going on over here. It's kind of it's kind of crazy. Well, my app says I'm here. Let's try calling them again.
This Uber call is being recorded. Please leave your message.
So I ended up canceling the ride because there's nobody over here. No one over here.
When Ken arrives at the exact pickup point, he finds himself parked in the middle of the cemetery. And there's no one there. No passenger. No movement. No sign of anyone anywhere in the surrounding area. He waits for a while, still expecting someone to appear. Then he tries calling the rider, a woman listed under the name Betty. But no one answers. No one shows up. Eventually, Ken decides to cancel the trip. But as he steps out of the car and moves closer to the pickup spot, a disembodied voice can suddenly be heard.
Well, my app says I'm here.
Then, when he tries once more to contact the passenger, the call is interrupted by a burst of strange audio interference. Not normal static, not the kind of sound you'd expect from a weak signal, just something distorted, unnatural, and deeply unsettling, especially in a place like that.
This Uber call is being recorded.
After the clip was posted, many viewers in the comments came up with their own theories. Some believe the name Betty may belong to someone buried there, someone who was never able to move on, and somehow requested the ride from beyond the grave. Whether this was just a disturbing coincidence or something far more paranormal, I'll leave that up to you. A team of paranormal investigators obtained 2 dolls from different owners, both of whom claimed the objects were tied to disturbing activity inside their homes. According to one family, the first doll seemed to be connected to repeated knocking sounds that would move from room to room, almost as if the noise was following it. They also reported lights flickering whenever the doll was handled, and more than once, they said it was found in places they were certain they hadn't left it. The second doll, Adder start in idresir chur tirdi, the son as her one wrapped in red cloth, and came with an even stranger history. Its previous owner claimed to hear whispering late at night, along with sudden cold spots forming around the exact shelf where the doll was kept. At one point, the owner even said her child refused to sleep in the same room, after insisting the doll had blinked. Instead of destroying the dolls, the investigators chose to document everything carefully. They placed both objects on a table in a controlled setting and began a spirit box session, asking direct questions and waiting for any possible response. And then, something happened.
Light it back up the red. Look, 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 look. Look, 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 look. No! Bring that camera over here!
Oh God, he moved.
Still moving. Did you catch it moving?
I think I did. I don't know. I tried to run.
Again. Look, you see it move? I caught it moving. Yeah.
If you watch closely, the doll draped in the red cloth appears to move its head, just slightly, to the side. For many viewers, that small movement was enough. Some investigators believe that objects repeatedly surrounded by fear, attention, and belief can become what are known as trigger objects, items that seem to attract or focus paranormal activity because of the emotional energy attached to them. The red cloth also drew a lot of attention. In some folklore traditions, red fabric is believed to either attract spiritual energy or contain it, depending on how it's used. So if the doll truly moved on its own, then the implication becomes hard to ignore. Maybe the previous owners weren't imagining anything at all. And if something really is attached to it, then bringing it into a new location may not silence it. It may have simply given it a new audience.
Again. Look, you see it move? I caught it moving. Yeah.
On February 23rd, 2026, a man by the username Artek shared a disturbing experience from his job as an overnight security guard at a supermarket called Bodega Herrera. According to him, ever since he started working the night shift, something about the building has felt wrong. And he isn't the only one who thinks so. In fact, several other guards reportedly refused to work that shift altogether. Then one night, while doing his routine patrol around 3 a.m., he suddenly hears voices echoing somewhere inside the store. So he decides to investigate.
Me encuentro dando mi rondín de las 3 de la mañana y pasa que hay algo bien curioso. No sé, la verdad, sí ya me está empezando a dar miedo. Se escuchan como risas, como voces. Sí, no sé si me estoy sugestionando por todo lo que ha estado pasando ahorita, pero sí estoy escuchando como demasiados ruidos. No sé, es muy extraño. Y la verdad sí ya me está dando como... Qué raro. Sí, ya me está dando como... Ay, no, no lo encuentro. Ay, no, no.
Without warning, one of the speakers in the electronics aisle suddenly blasts loud music, completely on its own. Startled, Artek pauses, unsure what just happened. After a moment, the sound stops. With nothing else out of place, he continues his patrol through the quiet supermarket. But that wasn't the only strange thing happening in the building that night, because the unsettling activity keeps continuing.
Es bien raro porque estoy checando mis caducidades que me tocó aquí en Salchonería y Lácteos y curiosamente escuché que algo se cayó. Realmente no alcancé a ver qué fue lo que se cayó, pero sí escuché que se cayó algo. Ya desde hace rato se andan escuchando ruidos pues extraños y realmente se cayeron unas galletas, creo. No sé, es muy extraño todo esto. Se cayeron las gallinas. ¡A la madre!
The strange events become frequent enough that his supervisors instruct him to investigate anything unusual, especially since the area around the store has a reputation for late-night robberies. Artek admits he was already feeling uneasy by this point, but he continues working. After all, he needs the job. That is, until one night when something happens in the back rooms of the store that nearly makes him quit on the spot.
Otra vez están escuchando ruidos. Estaba aquí haciendo el recorrido, pero escuché un ruido aquí adentro. No sé si estaba crujiendo algo o no sé si... No sé. Qué raro. Ya no sé realmente qué hacer. Todo me extraña de este lado. Ya no sé qué hacer. Ya realmente no sé qué es lo que voy a hacer. Ya no entiendo ni qué es lo que está... ¿Qué cojones? No mames. Sácate a la verga, al chile, pinche mamada. Su puta madre. ¿Qué es eso? ¿Hay alguien ahí? ¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué se ve ahí al fondo? Oh, no mames.
In the darkness of the storage area, two large booms can be seen resting in a corner. For a moment, nothing moves. Then suddenly, one of them shifts and topples over on its own. The unexpected crash sends Artek running immediately, convinced he may have just witnessed something he can't explain. And after that moment, he seriously begins questioning whether he should keep working the night shift at all.
Oh, no mames.
A group of paranormal investigators continue exploring a house that once belonged to an elderly couple who passed away years ago, leaving the property abandoned and slowly forgotten. Since then, several families have reportedly tried moving in, but according to local stories, none of them stay for long. Many describe the same disturbing pattern: quiet knocks echoing through empty rooms, objects shifting or falling with no one nearby, and a heavy, oppressive feeling that spreads through the entire house. The kind of atmosphere that makes people want to leave almost immediately. During this paranormal investigation, the team decides to live stream their exploration of the haunted house, and it doesn't take long before the strange activity begins.
Ce să, frate, să filmez ușa asta? Ce să filmez? Na, uite! O da rampodul, o arunca rampodul jos. Mi-au zis oamenii să iau rampodul, frate, uite, o arunca rampodul jos. Uite, frate, o arunca rampodul jos, ați văzut, uitați aparatul. Uite. Uite cum le-a aruncat la picioarea mea. Uite, uite antena, unde e antena.
Băi, dar închid.
Da, uite. O da rampodul, o arunca rampodul jos.
Without warning, a remote control suddenly launches across the room, crashing into the device they had placed there to communicate with any possible spirit in the house. Shaken, but still trying to stay calm, the investigators continue searching the abandoned home, moving carefully from room to room. Along the way, they begin discovering old photographs of the elderly couple from decades earlier, images that suggest the house was once filled with ordinary life and quiet memories. But their search doesn't last long, because only moments later, something else happens, almost as if whatever presence is inside the house has noticed them digging through its past.
Aici ai poze cu cineva mort.
De
Nu
asta
știu dacă știți.
spune eu, ca să
Da? Aici, unde e degetul meu, e cineva mort. E domnul Petrică, cum așa iese aici. Unde zboară vulturii, porumbei nu au loc.
Vulturii pleșuvi.
O, ai de mine, n-am cață. Na, mai zi ceva, frate. Na, mai zi ceva, că abia l-am scos și nebunesc. Dacă nu mă duc la Socola, la Bălăceanca cu casa asta...
La mine cred că a fost pisică.
Dacă nu mă duc la Bălăceanca cu casa asta, nu mai gata.
Vorbește cu Petrică. Nu mort, măi, stai, oamenii masă de Revelion. Deci la masa de Revelion.
Cazare, aruncă cu întârziere, auzi. Ia. Bă! Dai tare! Dă-te din rază, auzi, gata, mă dau. Deschide-l, ce să deschizi? Sertarul, deschide-l tu. Hai, ai de mine, ia!
Pentru aceasta îndrăznind aler la milostiv.
As one investigator opens a drawer, another drawer right beside it suddenly slides open on its own, even though no one is touching it. Moments like this are often associated with what paranormal researchers call an intelligent haunting, activity that doesn't appear random, but instead seems to react directly to the people inside the location. Some viewers believe the spirits of the former homeowners may still linger inside the house, refusing to let strangers disturb what was once their life. Others think that the explanation could be far darker, suggesting something else may have attached itself to the abandoned property long after the couple died. Either way, encounters like this are the reason haunted house investigations often leave investigators and viewers watching these scary videos with far more questions than answers. A paranormal investigator sets out to explore an abandoned house that locals have been warning people about for years, a place tied to stories of violent disturbances, unexplained noises, and a dark presence that supposedly does not welcome anyone stepping onto its property. According to nearby residents, several curious explorers have entered the house over the years, but many of them didn't stay long. They described the same disturbing things: footsteps moving through empty rooms, sudden knocking from inside the walls, and voices that seemed to whisper from the darkest corners of the house. So, with the rumors growing louder over time, the investigator decides to go inside and find out whether any of the stories about this haunted house could actually be true.
Vallahi bakacağım. Ya Allah Ya Allah bismillah. Çek.
Not long after entering the abandoned property, strange sounds begin echoing through the house, and the atmosphere changes almost immediately.
Ya Allah bismillah. Çek.
At first, the noises are subtle, faint knocking somewhere deeper inside the building. But then, without warning, something much more aggressive happens. What makes this case even stranger is that locals claim the spirit inside the house rarely attacks without warning. Instead, it's said to announce itself first, with loud bangs, thrown objects, or sudden movement, almost like one final chance for anyone inside to leave before the haunting turns worse. In this investigation, the presence never physically touches the explorer, but the message feels clear enough. Because when something unseen violently reacts to your presence inside an abandoned house like this, you have to wonder whether you'd ever be willing to go back inside again.
Çek.